Okay, so the title of today's talk is how to make $5,000 a month part-time selling insurance from home within your first 90 days as a new agent. And like I addressed earlier, my name is David Duford. I own the Dig Agency. The reason I'm putting this training out is because I started part-time way back in the past, back in 2011, as a part-time insurance agent. And a lot of you who are watching this live or watching a future recording are in a similar circumstance. You don't like your job. Maybe you want to do something different, but there's a lot of moving parts to making a full-time move happen. And so the purpose of this training is really to convey as best as possible on my end, my experience starting off part-time, specifically in the final expense life insurance niche, and what I learned to make it successful. And then what I learned a second time around when I started part-time again, as you'll see in a second. I did this twice part-time because I failed in between there. And the goal here is to give you some tips, some actionable advice on how to get into this business, this wonderful business of insurance, to sell it starting off part-time, but more importantly, as our title conveys, to do this on a full-time successful basis. This business is so great. I'm so blessed to have accidentally stumbled across it and gone full-time eventually. And so let's go ahead and begin because I want you to experience the same. So first of all, let's go. I like to share my story. I think it can give you some insight how to do this successfully. And then as we kind of describe my experience selling part-time successfully twice, like I said, we'll kind of break down what the learning points were, I guess you could say, and then learn a little bit from them. So getting started here. So I actually started in the insurance business. First of all, I had a personal training business. The Great Recession, some of you old enough to remember that, that happened in like 2008, 2009. And then my business was doing okay. And then by 2010, people just stopped signing up for personal training. It was becoming more expensive to find new clients. And my money was drying up that I had saved. And I knew about a year and a half out that I wasn't going to survive in this business of personal training. So I started looking for jobs. Nobody was hiring anybody, even though I had a little business that was successful. I couldn't find a sales job even. It was very frustrating. And so I, like a lot of you, stumbled across insurance. Some of you hear about this from friends and family that try to recruit you. Maybe you just came across YouTube and were doing research and you found out about the insurance business. I started doing some online reviews of insurance, and I came across a very famous MLM. I won't mention their names here. Joined on a call, realized all they care about was recruiting people to recruit, and then started doing some more due diligence. I ran across a website still in effect today called the Insurance Forums, and started reading about final expense. I was looking at Medicare. I was looking at final expense, and I stumbled or decided that final expense was going to be the thing for me because it was very one call close oriented. There was tons of prospects. There were older people. I like talking to old people. They're nice. They're easy to deal with. And it was a rinse and repeat type of business model with very little to no service work whatsoever. And I could do my personal training gym business in the meantime while I dabbled and kind of, jumped into the shallow end of the pool of selling insurance, right? So for about 6 months, I sold final expense part-time. At this time, very few people were doing telesales. I was doing face-to-face and door knocking, seeing the people. And it took me a month or two. And then I was seeing that I was getting success. I was seeing that I was getting a consistency of success. And then about 6 months in, I said, you know what? This business is great. I can see the money coming into my bank account. I can see that I could do this continually successfully. It's not just some flash in the pan. And so I burned the bridges and then I went full time entirely. Now, of course, because I was young and dumb, I ended up doing and making some mistakes along the way when it comes to marketing, my mindset, how I approach the prospects, and basically quit. I went broke. I had like $93 in my bank account. I had made some bad decisions about marketing and which type of leads to use, and I just got totally burnt out of the business and quit. I got a real job at Aramark Uniform Services selling uniforms, and I realized how terrible that was. And it dawned on me that I let this opportunity just, go. I had a real opportunity to run my own business, make a six-figure income. And, because my brain got in the way, I had let myself down. And so I decided then and there, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to do this business part-time while I have this full-time sales job. So I started a couple of months after I started at Aramark and started part-time. I would work from 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock Eastern all the way up to 10 or 11 Tuesdays and Thursdays after I ended my shift selling early with Aramark. And then I'd go out all day Saturday. I'd start at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get back till 10 or 11. And my commitment was, and my idea was, is that if I could get through this period of time, learn the business, stick to fundamentals, not getting sidetracked or distracted. And I really embodied what it took to be successful, that I could get rid of this fear I had of going in corporate America, not necessarily getting promotions at the rate that I feel like I was qualified for, having my income controlled or out of my control, and having to, play politics, right, in corporate America. I just didn't want to do any of that. And then fast forward about 8 or 9 months, my wife, I think that's how it went. My wife delivered. Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happened. My wife was pregnant with twins, and she got hit by a car. And on my last day on the job, I was like flying 100 miles an hour in some back roads at Aramark. And she's okay. The babies are okay, thank God. And then she delivered him a little bit early, and that's when I decided it's time to go. Things are going smooth. I have to take that leap of faith. I could stick around longer, but in combination with my frustration with being in corporate America and just wanting to be free and back out to do my own thing again, I took the leap of faith again, right? And thankfully, it's been an uphill, not an uphill battle, but a downhill, better and better every single year. Eventually started my agency the next year after that in 2013, 2014, still sold all the way up full-time to about 2017. And everything's been fantastic since then. So that's my story. And I can tell you, part-time does work. You can sell part-time successfully, but I will be honest with you. Most people don't do it right. They don't have the right fundamentals in place to be successful on a limited schedule. And a lot of it has to deal with your perspective. A lot of it has to deal with your goals and where you're going. And if you're going to really take this seriously and look at this part-time process as an ultimate going full-time, whether it's 90 days, a year, whatever your time horizon is, you have to have a plan of action, and you have to treat your work, despite it being part-time, with a full-time commitment. And that's where so many people that we've seen over the years recruiting part-timers drop the ball at. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue there. And I want to kind of pick back up with the presentation and get more into some takeaways from this and what I think is of value. Because like I said, again, I can't stress enough, most people who start part-time do fail this business, but it's because they don't have a succinct strategy. They don't have a process coming in, and they don't have really kind of a time horizon, a deadline, et cetera. We'll get into that in a second here. So again, recapping a couple of things, what are some reasons why part-time can be a good idea? Now, I'll let you guys know, if you can go full-time, you should go full-time. There is something to be said about going all in, burning the bridges, having no plan B, being fully committed and really back up against the wall, going all in. There's tremendous power in doing that, okay? But I recognize it's not for everybody either, and that there's also an alternate path of getting started part-time. So let's talk about a couple of reasons where, in my opinion, starting part-time may be a good idea. So realistically, you need a transition period, right? Maybe you're in a position where you're making so much money a month, and you look at the numbers and you're like, well, I might be able to do that, but what if I don't? How is that going to financially impact my family? You might need a transition period of, say, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months to save money and to learn the business on a part-time basis, okay? So that's really where, and everybody's different. Again, if you and I were talking and you had no family commitments or mortgages or much else financially that you had to worry about, I would say go all in, in a heartbeat, right? But maybe you're not in that position. And in that case, part-time might be a good idea. You want to earnestly test the concept. So again, maybe you're thinking, well, if I don't go all in, Or if I go all in, what if I lose? What if I don't make money? And that is a potential. I've always made it clear on all my videos, many videos I do at least, that, not everybody makes it in this business, and there's definitely no promises. And part-time is a way in order to give yourself an option to try the business out without as much risk exposure. But I can't stress enough, if you're going to do this part-time, you can't just say, well, I'm going to test this business out and like work 1 day a week for like 3 hours after, works out on Tuesday. That's not enough time on task. The part of this business requires time on task. It requires, like I said, a commitment. So if you want to test this concept, we'll go into more specifics here in a little bit, but you don't want to do it full time. You're going to have to do more than just a bare minimum amount of work. You don't want to treat this as a hobby. You want to treat this as a business that you're running and all the commitment requirements that go with it. And another reason, of course, is you need extra cash. Selling insurance is great for that. There are people who do part-time longer than 3 or 6 months. They could go full-time. Maybe you're happy with what it is that you're doing, and you're just looking for a side gig, a side hustle, as they say, and you're looking to make some extra money. It definitely can be done with the right arrangement, of course, if you're looking just to make some extra cash. So how do you pick the best insurance products to sell part-time? So somebody in the chat had said, is this about specifically final expense? And my answer is no. But with that said, not all insurance products are created equal when it comes to, well, what should you sell part-time? So we're going to get into discerning which products are better for part-time and which ones I would recommend to stay away from. And we'll go into that in a little bit of detail here in a second. So first of all, the first question that's really important is, how fast do you need money? If you're like me, when I started this business part-time, I needed money yesterday. I couldn't wait for residuals to build up over years, like some insurance products do, to justify me being involved in that business model. Does that make sense, right? So for me, when I started part-time, I wanted to sell a product that had a reasonably high first-year commission, okay? So in general, the products that fill that description would be life insurance products, okay? Now, of course, I love final expense. That's all you'll hear me talk about, selling remotely, us providing free leads. But the truth is that there are other products as well that do the trick too. For example, like Index Universal Life is completely fine. That is a great product to sell if you're looking to do this part-time. Also, mortgage protection, term insurance, another good product to sell if you're looking for part-time work. Because generally speaking, to get the clients approved takes days, sometimes instantaneously. And then after the first premium payment, by then you usually have been paid. So you get paid a commission within a couple of weeks. And that commission is typically a high percentage of the first year premium. So in effect, you get a higher first year commission right up front, which is super duper important. Now, with that said, you'll notice I didn't mention anything about health insurance like ACA, Affordable Health Care, or Medicare, selling those products part-time. I am not a fan for, I would say, like 90% of you who want to sell insurance on a part-time basis. And here's the reason why. It all comes down to their commission structure and how they pay, and then also taking into account any costs of doing business that you have to do. So a couple of things here. Number one problem is slow pay. Okay. It just says low pay. It does say slow and low. So slow pay with any kind of health insurance products. I would also throw in property and casualty in the mix into that too. So your home insurance, car insurance, etc. The problem with those is they pay a decent commission, but it really doesn't get good till you've stacked the renewal commission on top of each other over multiple years of selling the product. So for example, like Medicare, typically speaking, you're going to get a residual Medicare of about $300 a year. And that comes out to about $25 a month. All right. Up front, if you replace an existing Medicare plan, you get the $300 prorated depending on what month of the year it starts. So if it starts in July, you only get half the commission. Now, notice that's just commission. That doesn't include the cost of doing business, which is your marketing cost, right? And if it costs you $100 to $150 to get a client, Well, if you write a deal in July with Medicare, you've not made any money. Granted, years to come, you will if you can keep that policy on the books. But hopefully, can you see where I'm coming from? The issue starting part-time is that usually we're motivated to do this because we need to make money. We want more money, right? But with certain products like Medicare and health insurance, it's just a slower pay type of product that is not going to pan out faster to justify the effort on a short-term basis if making money like right now is of importance to you. If you can wait a couple of years, which that may be some of you out there, then it's totally fine. And then the other side of it too is that like with ACA insurance, they only pay what's called as earned commission. If you're new to the business, that is just a stated amount paid to you every time that policy renews. And depending on the state you're in, it can be $15 a month up to $25 a month. And again, not bad if you write 100 a month, right? If you're really busy. But the problem is that business costs something to acquire. You have to pay for leads or do something like that to get that money in. And many times you'll be in the red, you'll be losing money in those business models, which again is why I'm not a very big fan of it. Okay. So bottom line here, if you're thinking about starting this business part-time, I would implore you to stick with a life insurance product focus. Pick one that it pays fast. It has a decent commission. Pick one that, is easy to understand. We'll get into that in a little bit, and stay away from products that pay slowly. Okay. So let's talk about how to make part-time insurance sales work around your busy schedule, because this is another question and concern that I get from a lot of people is you got to keep your job. Well, how can you do this if you're working 9 to 6 every day or 9 to 5, or you're putting in 40 or 50 hours a week? How can you make a part-time schedule work for you? How can you make, there it is, the calendar, the PowerPoint work. There it is. Okay, cool. So again, rule of thumb is you got to treat this as a full-time commitment. I've said that a bunch. You'll hear me say this like a bunch because it really summarizes the whole talk here today. This is part-time with a full-time commitment, okay? So you have to have the mindset of being fully committed to sticking with this. So number one, what I did to be successful is I had dedicated days in order to go out into the field and door knock and run preset appointments to sell final expense. I just didn't walk into a week on Monday and say, well, I think I'm going to work this day, these times. No, it was a given that I was going to be out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and all day Saturdays, no exceptions. It would take like a serious issue for me not to go out on those days. And so my point being to you, why does this matter? Is you got to look at your schedule and you got to look at a way to incorporate a part-time schedule in it. And I'm sorry to say too, you're going to have to probably find somewhere around 15 to 20 hours a week to make this make sense, which means you're going to have to work a lot more than what you're doing now, as opposed to drawing it down, unless you have the ability to do that. But long story short, you're going to have to basically work during the times that you can't work. And this has implications. This is why I like final expense, because final expense is great to sell in the first thing in the morning, mid-afternoon into the evenings. It's great to sell on Saturdays, even Sundays. People will pick up the phone and listen to you. Sell them a final expense policy. So it's very flexible with the type of schedule that you have to sell. So continuing, again, commit to at least 20 hours a week. I would say try to find as much time as you can, because there's a certain part of becoming successful in this business that the more you're doing it, the faster and more likely you're going to be successful. That's why a lot of agencies don't take part-timers, because they just don't have enough time on task to be fully committed. So again, find the time to make this work and carve out serious time, not a 5-hour session twice a week. Try to find 15 to 20 hours bare minimum to make this work. And again, find a product that you can work around the schedule that you have. And make sure your family respects your commitment and understands your vision. This is the thing that I would always tell my wife, like, and we just remember, like I said, and I'm only telling you my experiences. You got to make your own mind up about, how you handle these things, of course. But, for us, I said, this business is a real opportunity to make great money, to have freedom, to have the ability to do things in life and not be tied down by corporate America. But I have to, and it's me telling my wife, I have to make the sacrifice. I have to, invest the time. I have to pay the price, as they say. And that means time away from family. there were nights I wasn't home, and my wife really wanted me home with twins. And, some of you ladies out there have had kids, especially twins, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure she wasn't happy about it. But for me, it was what I had to do to pay the price now, so I wouldn't have to pay the price later in my life when it would be a heck of a lot harder. It was already hard, but it would be even harder. And that kind of commitment has to be there, and you have to have your family understand that, that there's a reason why you're sacrificing time in order for the hope and the potential for the future to where you're going to be full-time and have more flexibility and making a kind of income that's way better than what you're doing, but while also having the freedom and more time for your family. So the three biggest reasons most part-time agents fail is, again, partial commitment. We made this clear. Full-time commitment. Say it with me, everybody. Full-time commitment. You got to be full-time committed in order to make this. Even though you're part-time in your schedule, if you're partially committed to this thing, it's just going to fail. You're going to be easily roped back into your job. You're going to easily be talked down when you got to go out there and you got to see the people. You got to be fully committed despite your part-time schedule. Product agency misalignment. This is a common reason really everybody fails in this business. There's a lot of agents probably on this call that started with an agency and they found out it was an MLM Kool-Aid machine talking about recruiting people to recruit. It wasn't about selling to be successful. And if you come into this thinking you're going to sell and you want to sell and learn the craft of selling insurance, but you are now in an MLM, that's a misalignment. And so you may be in a position where you're just in the wrong agency, right? So if that describes you, if you're part-time, you're not happy, my advice would be to look somewhere else. Like, it's harder to be successful part-time. It's already hard to do it full-time successful, but harder part-time. So if you don't agree with how your agency operates, you don't like their system, you don't like the product, you don't like their approach to how they approach the business, pivot, find another company. Nobody can hold you back. Your license is yours. You can find an agency that's better suited for you. And the other one here is an ineffectual lead system. So look, you've got to have leads, in my opinion, for most of the insurance products to be successful. A lot of companies, they'll feed you leads, but they're really basically names in a phone book that aren't qualified, or they're leads that are like years and years old. The people are dead sometimes when you contact them. Trust me, it happens pretty much every day. They're just not good quality. And you can have great training, but if the lead quality isn't there, it's going to be frustrating. Okay. So these are the three things to be concerned with, because you want to know what not to do as much as what you need to do to be successful. And in this case, to sell part-time successfully, these are three things that you want to think about and avoid too. So some numbers behind making $5,000 part-time a month. Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, remote telesales, that's pretty much for us. We're going to talk about that because that's my business model. I also have a special guest who's going to come on to the end of this training, who's going to talk about a little bit about what he does in the final expense space. Make sure you stick around for that. But remote final expense telesales is pretty much the model that we do. So this is where the numbers are going to come through so you can kind of see what's possible. There's two different models you can do. You can buy leads or you can get leads for free. If you buy leads, you got to take what you make in commission, subtract your costs, and that equals your profit, right? And so it's pretty simple. When you buy leads, your average commission roughly is going to work out to like $750. Your average cost, if you're a good agent, around $250. So you're profiting about $500. So basically what you need to do in $5,000 in income is 10 sales a month, maybe 11 or 12 to make up for possibly people who lapse or the partial advances that you get. But this is kind of the bare minimum of hitting this if you're looking on a basis of buying leads. Now, getting free leads, the average deal is going to be less in any kind of free lead program. And again, this is just pulling up some basic numbers like with us. And so in this case, you need about 12 or 13 sales to make the income that you want, which is very doable. That's just like 3, maybe 4 policies a week. Not that hard to do if you're putting in 20 plus hours a week part-time. The opportunity is definitely there as long as the structure and you're in the right agency and they've got the right lead programs, right? So a couple of things here that I stress this, and this is stuff that I have learned over many years recruiting and selling. Free leads, you can either get into this business buying leads or you can get into it getting free leads. And what I have discovered through recruiting thousands of people that Man, 95% of you really should be getting free leads. The act of buying leads is more risky. It's higher commission. You get a higher commission. You should, at least relatively. Not all agencies do. But when you buy leads, the problem is that your money's at risk. A lot of people start this business and they're not financially secure. And when they're pounding out $1,000 a week in leads, it's nervy. It's nerve-wracking. And so invariably, what a lot of agents end up doing is they cancel their lead campaign because they have a bad week or two. They feel like the up and down is just grating to them. Maybe their spouse doesn't agree. Whereas what we've seen in free lead programs, like with ours and our gentleman that we're going to bring on here in a minute, the free lead programs, you eliminate, while you're at a lower commission per sale, you eliminate the emotionality of investing your own money. And all you have to do in that case is just simply worry about selling. You don't have to worry about where do you buy your leads? Can you afford the leads? All you have to do is focus on selling and getting better at selling, because in a good system, the leads are there. And all you have to do is just dial them. And like I said, it blows my mind because I started off and I've always bought my own leads in the business. But in the short time that we've run a free lead program and seen others as well, agents are just more consistently successful if they are on a free lead program. And so that's something that I would highly recommend most of you to consider. Now, a couple of things here. How do you go full-time into this business? Because like that's a goal you should have. You should have a deadline to jump in. It's never going to be perfect to go all in. You're going to have some reservations, but you need to have some kind of deadline to go all in and not just do this part-time. First of all, stick to your part-time schedule diligently for 12 months. This is what I did my second time around. Save up as much of your money as possible. Like I would say, don't even spend any of the money that you're making part-time. If you got a full-time job and you're doing this part-time, save every last penny. Build up a bankroll. The more money cushion you have when you go full-time, the easier it is. That is always a goal and a destination for anybody on a straight commission type job, like what selling final expense over the phone is with us, is to get into the position where you can save as much money, because we all have ups and downs in our career, okay? And we go through hot spots and cold spots, but you need to shove away money as much as possible so that you can absorb the rough spots, okay? And the good news is that when you decide to go full-time, all it is the same thing you've been doing for the last 6 or 12 months as a part-time agent, just double the effort. You're just on the phone more. You're talking to the same people. You're making the same sales pitch. You're just doing 20 or 30 hours more than what you were doing when you're on a part-time basis. So the nice thing is that nothing really changes hugely from the job standpoint. You're doing the same thing, just more of it. So there's some relief in making that leap of faith that there's nothing that you haven't really uncovered, because if you've done it successfully for 6 or 12 months, you know what's coming, just more of the same. So in summary, when selling insurance part-time, again, what we recommend is to do the following. First of all, stick to life insurance products. Life insurance products provide the best first-year commissions. They're high. Even if you decide to buy leads, they're great. It's definitely fine on a free lead program with a good setup. And in most life insurance products now, they approve very quickly, so you get paid faster. And for 95% of us, like myself, that need money quickly, life insurance is a great product to start off with. Again, treat it with a full-time attitude despite your part-time schedule. Be fully committed to this profession on a part-time basis with full commitment. Act as if you were full-time. Act as if this was your only job, your only business, your only source of income. How would you treat this business differently? Do that even though you're on a part-time basis. Save up as much money as possible to create a money cushion. Again, to leave your job where you have a set salary, you know what to expect, and to go to a straight commission. Guys, the more money you can have saved, the easier your transition is going to be. So as much as possible, as you're selling part-time, save, 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 save. And then lastly, join a solid agency that is suited to your goals and understands and works with part-time agents. Again, you got to find an agency that's going to support that has a program, has an arrangement set up that will allow you to be successful, and will show you a path in order to get you to the point of being able to do this on a full-time basis.